5 years ago, you were our very first in-studio guest. 5 years later, we are here. We cannot thank you enough. We see you as some sort of lucky charm for us. Yeah. Because nobody thought we would last 5 years on air.
Not even our parents.
Not even our parents. Everybody had the under. But UFC and MMA has been a huge part of our show. And we love it. And that's why we love it being here. How much do you see the change of your company specifically directed to a Hispanic audience in the last 5 years?
Well, we obviously have world champions now that are Mexican-born, and our investment in Mexico is now starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We're opening a PI here very soon. I'm going to go down there.
Performance Institute for years.
Yes.
Sorry.
Cutting the ribbon. Yes, you're right. Performance
Private
Institute.
investigator. I had it.
And I just think that over the next, this has been a work in progress for a long time, but over the next 5 years, you're going to really see it explode down in Mexico.
Why Mexico? Because I look at what you're doing, the UFC is doing. You're trying to take over traditional Mexican boxing dates. Cinco de Mayo, in September, Mexican Independence Day. What do you tell those people who say, wait a second, Dana, that's Mexico's, that's boxing's?
Yeah. I mean, it still is. I mean, we will, on Mexican Independence Day, Canelo will go at the T-Mobile and we'll be right down the street at the Sphere. So they will always exist and it will always happen, but we're going global, we're going everywhere. And Mexico has been a big part of my game plan since day one. I've always said the baddest motherfuckers that have ever walked the face of this earth have been Mexican.
Really quickly, do you anticipate something like the last time Canelo and the UFC squared off, where Canelo's on his couch waiting for the UFC event to finish so he can start?
Remember that
I do remember that. I don't know if that'll happen, but yeah, that was interesting, right? It's smart though.
It was even more interesting what he said afterwards. He was really upset with his promotion.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm Canelo. Why am I waiting for them for their show to be over?"
So. What is true though is when you truly are a fight fan, you'll have both TVs going anyway. Yeah. So there's many nights that we'll have a live event and there's a boxing match on, and I actually have it right at the table while I'm watching my fights too. So I think when you're a true fight fan, sometimes it's good to go the same night because you have more people home watching fights and they'll watch both.
You've had Brandon Moreno,
yes.
Irene,
yes.
Alexa, Jair. 2023 was massive for the relationship of the UFC with Mexico. Because it's one thing to have a lot of fans, it's one thing to have a lot of fighters in your roster, it's a different thing to have champs. How would you describe the importance of not just having them in your roster, but being as successful as they still are in 2023 and now 2024?
Yeah, well, I think that, with the initiative that we have going on down in Mexico, we're going with another live event since before the pandemic, opening the PI. Over the next 5 or 6 years, you're going to see lots of top 10, top 5, and world champions being Mexican-born. So, it's a big deal. And I always say this. When we first went into Australia, there was only one guy. Elvis Sinisic was the only guy in literally the whole country. Yeah. Now there's multiple world champions, top 10, et cetera. And the same thing's going to happen with Mexico, but even bigger. It's going to be even bigger in Mexico. The fighting culture in Mexico is so massive. And like I said, when you have these figures, these world champions who look like you look, talk like you talk, and come from where you come from, they're inspirational to the younger generation. And a lot of these kids are going to want to grow up and become UFC world champions too.
One of the things that is very distinctive and we as Mexicans take great pride of is the Mexican fighting style. I grew up watching boxing.
Right.
Your brother, but your brother was an MMA fighter, UFC fighter.
Worked for Dana for a few fights.
Ulises. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He probably kicked your ass when you were kids, right?
But no,
that's a different story.
But big brother strength.
How would you describe that Mexican fighting style?
Yeah, I mean, Mexicans are notoriously tough, durable, great body punchers. hit hard, great knockouts. Warriors. They're looked at like warriors, guys who leave it all in there. You never look at a Mexican fighter and think of them as the guys that jab and run around and try to outpoint somebody. They're the guys that come in and just go toe to toe, dog it out, and are always the most fun fighters to watch.
You mentioned Notorious. I have to ask you. I'm not even going to ask you on when Conor's coming back. I mean, there's a little bit of, I guess, angst on his part. If you read his social media, he wants the fight done. He wants it signed. We don't know when. I want to ask you, what type of Conor McGregor do you think we're going to get? Because Proper 12 whiskey, Roadhouse movie, the guy's got all the money in the world. There's no need to fight. What type of Conor McGregor do you think we're going to see once he comes back in the UFC?
That's a great question. That is the that is the $1 million question, literally. Conor and the layoff. Layoffs never help either.
Yeah. And the injury.
There will definitely be buzz, energy, and excitement when he comes back, but that all remains to be seen. And that's why I think, him and Chandler are such a good fight. We were just talking about Mexican fighters. It'll be one of those type of fights. Those two will go in there, they'll stand toe to toe, and someone will go down. So he'll fight this year, probably later, probably in the fall, and probably against Michael Chandler.
After the first card last September, you said this was a massive success. We have to make something bigger, and you thought of the sphere, right? I know you cannot give a lot of details yet,
but that's not how it really played out. So how it worked out was, I got that date. The way that I looked at it, I was going to get that date every year. Boxing would have Cinco de Mayo. I was getting Mexican Independence Day. Al Heyman, to his credit, good for you, Al. Congrats. He slid in there and he stole the date from me. Oh. So I flipped out and I got into a huge beef with the MGM and the arena. And I wanted the sphere. I was going that night no matter what. I was going to stay in Vegas, and I wanted the sphere. And I'm in contract with the MGM, and MGM let me do it. So, like everything in my life, this was meant to happen. This was meant to happen. I'm going to go into the sphere and put on the greatest live combat sports event anybody has ever seen or will ever do. There will never be. Just what this is going to take to do, the capabilities of the sphere, what it's going to cost. Nobody will ever do this again. It will never be done. It will never be pulled off again after this one. And it's going to be literally a huge love letter to the Mexican people.
Is it a way of saying, this date, you're going to come to Vegas and not watch boxing? You're going to go to an MMA UFC event. Is that one of your goals?
No. Mexico's been a big thing for me. It's my way of saying, hey, Mexico, we've arrived.
I'm curious. I have to go back to boxing. I'm sure you saw the Francis Ngannou fight versus Tyson Fury. We all watched it. Just curious of your impressions of, we've seen MMA versus boxing before, but a guy like Francis go from the MMA ring to the boxing ring and stunned the world champion in Tyson Fury.
Yeah, he did. I think he blew everybody away with that one. Nobody saw that coming, especially Tyson Fury. And I think Tyson Fury didn't prepare like Tyson Fury should have.
Do you think he regrets this fight?
100%. There's no way he doesn't. He thought, like everybody else thought, he was going to go in and bang him out in 2 rounds or something. And when you go into a situation like that, and that's what you think and that's the way that you believe, yet for Francis, this was the fight of his life.
Yeah.
This fight, everything was on the line for him. You fight differently, and there's more at stake. Tyson's already he's the heavyweight champion. He's the guy that's looked at as the best, and people even look at Tyson, as far as boxing goes, as one of the best ever.
Yeah.
So, he should have taken that fight a lot more serious than he did.
How far can this go? And I'm saying, by this I mean MMA fighters jumping into boxing, because I don't see it the other way around. You won't see a boxer.
Deontay Wilder's already expressed interest in coming into the MMA.
Of course, but where do you see this relationship, quote unquote, relationship going moving forward?
I try to keep I'm looking for the best fighters in the world. That's what I'm looking for. You know, and I have tried other things, like WWE guys wanted to come here. Brock came and became heavyweight world champion.
CM Punk.
CM Punk didn't work out, but the guy toughed it out, and you know, the people he trained with had a lot of respect for him. But I'm always looking for the best. I'm always looking for the best fighters in the world. Unless something pops up that the fans want to see so bad that I have to make it happen, which ended up with Mayweather and McGregor. But I don't know. I mean, in boxing, I think they're always going to try to put on things that they think will sell. You know, boxing is always a going out of business sale. Every time they put on a fight, man, it's like they want to get as much money in the door, and they don't care what happens tomorrow. We have a completely different approach. I reinvest in the business. Like we're talking about the PIs. Got one in China. Got one over in Vegas. We're doing the biggest one ever in the Middle East. Going to do one in Africa, and then I'm going to cut the ribbon for Mexico here pretty soon. It's a massive, massive reinvestment in the sport in the future. Boxing doesn't do that.
Dana, you're one of the most important promoters in the history of combat sports. Let's try to save boxing for a second, because that's been the MO. Boxing is dying. That's what we've been hearing for the last 10, 15 years.
20 years.
20 years, there you go, if not more. Are there too many belts in boxing? Like, what do you think that affects the attraction to the casual fan? How it can be maybe a little confusing?
Well, it's fascinating because every time you think boxing's dead, another fight resurfaces that
sure. Brings it
into.
Yeah.
Oh God, what's his name? The Mexican kid that was built on social media.
Ryan Garcia.
Ryan Garcia.
Yes. I mean, my son and his friends were interested in that fight. What's crazy is I would have never thought this in a million years. I didn't take my son to a boxing match, until he was like 19, my oldest son. And we literally went, it was a complete show. It was Tyson Fury and might have been Wilder. Could have been Fury Wilder. No security. Show is just horrible. And my son literally, when we left, said, I don't ever want to do one of those again. But he bought that fight on pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. He bought that fight on pay-per-view. Him and Davis.
Yeah,
and
Gervonta, yeah.
And so every time you think boxing's dead, something will pop up. And most of the numbers that these guys put out there are bullshit. They all lie about the numbers. That fight was legit.
Right.
That fight pulled a massive number and killed it.
5 years ago, first in-studio guest. 5 years later, celebrating our 5th year anniversary. You welcome us in your house, in your office. I'm not going to say what's to my left, if that's okay. Where are we going to celebrate our show, our 10th anniversary, Ahora o Nunca show? Where shall we meet?
So that will be another 5 years.
Another 5 years.
The PI will have existed for 5 years down there.
Look at this
There'll
man.
be talent. We'll do it in the PI in
There we
Mexico
go.
City.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully it won't have to be 5 years till we run into you again, because we really enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for welcoming us here, and congrats on all of your success. Did I say sex? Did I say sex? I said sex, right? Congrats on all of your sex. Congrats on all of your success.
Thank you on both. I appreciate
Listen,
it.
Dana, I don't know your history, but congrats anyways.
Easy. We're
I
interviewing
appreciate
Congrats
it.
on all of
It's really nice of you.
success.
We're interviewing Dana White.
We're proud of you, brother. Cut that. That's more than...